It actually worked. When users of TikTok in the US rushed to download Red Note as a protest to TikTok being banned,
y'all, we gotta vow to keep it real on Red Note.
I think that this app is better than TikTok.
3 days of millions of Americans moving on to Red Note.
the US government took note. Senator Tom Cotton said this:
TikTok is a Chinese communist spy app that addicts our kids, harvests their data, targets them with harmful and manipulative content, and spreads communist propaganda.
But the thing is, Red Note is far more concerning than TikTok because of its ties to the Chinese government. It doesn't even have a presence in the US. See, America and China are locked in a high-stakes competition that could define the 21st century. And at the heart of this rivalry lies one dominant theme: technology. From smartphones to electric vehicles to social media apps like TikTok, China's rapid tech rise is reshaping industries, and it's challenging the US's dominance. It's also raising national security concerns.
America's security, prosperity, and standing in the world.
I'm gonna break down all of this to explore why America has a China problem, a problem that's both economic and also ideological.
Let's say China. 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 China.
China is way ahead of everyone else. China is clearly leading.
Over the last 2 decades, Chinese companies have grown from manufacturing hubs to global innovation powerhouses. Look at Huawei, Xiaomi, BYD, and Tencent. These are just some of the names making waves internationally. Their success has been fueled by government subsidies, a massive domestic market, and aggressive R&D spending. China's annual research and development investment surpassed $400 billion in 2022, closing in on the US's $550 billion. And Chinese smartphone brands like Huawei, Xiaomi, and Oppo have dominated global markets, with Huawei even surpassing Apple in shipments at one point.
Huawei has moved up to a second place in the global smartphone sales share, overtaking Apple for the first time ever.
They've done this by offering high-quality devices at competitive prices. But there's a catch here. These companies often operate under the shadow of the Chinese government. The US has repeatedly accused them of serving as tools for espionage.
Huawei is something that's very dangerous. From a security standpoint, from a military standpoint, it's very dangerous.
Claims that Huawei strongly denies.
The US government has provided no evidence to show that Huawei is a security threat.
Case in point, Huawei's 5G technology. While the company is a global leader in 5G infrastructure, the US has blacklisted it, citing national security risks. Countries like Australia, Japan, and the UK have followed suit, banning Huawei from their 5G networks. Yet Huawei still remains a dominant player, particularly in emerging markets.
Get us less dependent on China. Tensions continue rising between the US and China.
Despite geopolitical tensions, the US heavily relies on Chinese manufacturing. Apple's iPhones, for example, are assembled in China by Foxconn. This dependency creates a paradox. While the US government pushes back against China, American corporations continue to profit from Chinese factories and supply chains. In 2023, 90% of Apple's iPhones were assembled in China. Now, although Apple is attempting to diversify by expanding into India and Vietnam, the process has been slow and costly. This dependency gives China significant leverages in trade disputes. Another example is rare earth metals. China controls over 60% of the world's rare earth mining and 85% of its refining capacity. These materials are essential for everything from EV batteries to fighter jets. Any disruption in this supply chain could cripple US tech and defense industries.
In the competitive world of Chinese electric vehicles, the Chinese giant taking on Tesla, U.S. government need to be more friendly.
China isn't just producing EVs, it's setting the global standard. Companies like BYD, NIO, and XPeng are leading the charge, with BYD selling more EVs than Tesla in 2023. China's government has heavily subsidized the EV industry, pouring billions into infrastructure and R&D. So why does this matter? Well, the US is falling behind. While Tesla dominates in America, Chinese EV makers are aggressively expanding into Europe, Southeast Asia, and even the Middle East. In 2023, China exported over 3 million EVs, making it the world's largest EV exporter. Chinese companies also control a significant share of the global battery market, even supplying batteries to Tesla, BMW, and Toyota. Now, the US is trying to catch up with initiatives like the Inflation Reduction Act, which includes $369 billion for clean energy and EV subsidies, but it's an uphill battle.
What is happening here and why there's such concern about
from so many governments about TikTok.
Okay, now let's talk about the apps. This is really interesting because this is the new frontier of digital warfare. So TikTok is owned by China's ByteDance, and it's America's most downloaded app with over 170 million US users. But it's also a lightning rod for controversy. See, critics argue that TikTok poses a national security threat, claiming the Chinese government could access user data. ByteDance denies this, saying its efforts to store US data on American soil under the Project Texas initiative should be enough. But then tensions escalated when they banned TikTok for a short period of time.
Back home now to the breaking news overnight, the social media app TikTok going dark as a US ban goes into effect.
And before President Trump saved it.
And as of today, TikTok is back.
TikTok has been on this PR blitz for several years now, arguing that banning the app would harm small businesses and stifle free expression. While the US scrutinizes TikTok, American tech companies like Meta and Google operate freely in many parts of the world, also collecting vast amounts of user data. This irony isn't lost on global audiences.
It looks like TikTok, perhaps the preferred buyer, it will be Elon Musk.
Elon Musk took to X to say this: "I have been against a TikTok ban for a long time because it goes against freedom of speech. That said, the current situation where TikTok is allowed to operate in America, but X is not allowed to operate in China is unbalanced. Something needs to change." Now, we all know by now that Elon Musk has a big stake in China because of Tesla, so it's interesting to see him weigh in like this. But underlying America's China problem is a clash of ideologies. The US champions free markets and individual freedoms, while China's model emphasizes state control and collective progress. This ideological divide is reflected now in apps. In China, the government's firewall tightly controls the internet, banning platforms like Google, Facebook, and X. Instead, domestic alternatives like Baidu, WeChat, and Douyin thrive. Meanwhile, Chinese apps like TikTok operate freely in the US sometimes, leveraging America's open internet policies. So what can America do here? Well, invest in domestic manufacturing would ultimately reduce dependency on Chinese supply chains. See, the US government already allocated billions of dollars for semiconductor manufacturing under the CHIPS Act. Similar investments are needed for EVs and other tech sectors. Another thing is collaborating with allies like Japan, South Korea, and the EU can counter China's tech dominance. For example, the US and Japan recently signed a deal to secure rare earth supplies. Finally, regulate big tech. See, ensuring that apps and platforms, whether American or Chinese, adhere to strict data privacy and transparency standards, well, that can mitigate risks and ultimately help grow the tech ecosystem in the US. America's China problem is complicated, and it's not just about who makes the best phones or the fastest electric cars. It's about the future of tech, power, and ideology. The US faces tough choices. How do you compete with a rival that's both a business partner and a geopolitical adversary? How do you maintain innovation while also protecting national security? The answers aren't simple, but one thing is clear: the tech rivalry will shape the world for decades to come. So whether you're scrolling on TikTok or buying an EV or reading about the latest trade dispute, remember these are not just headlines. They're the battle lines of a global struggle. So what do you think? Should America ban TikTok, and is China outpacing the US in tech? Let me know your comments below, and don't forget to check out more videos like this one and make sure you're subscribing at Uptin.